are multiple ways, we can set the mock. Either we can set the mock, if the API is not ready, we can manually create it. If your API is already available, you can, as I told, you can save the response and then you can use as a mock. So the first thing, important thing is here is the URL of your mock server, right? So Postman allows you to create mock, but you have to sign in. Without signing in, you cannot use mocking server, because that mocking server has to be deployed somewhere, right? So it has to be available for you to use. Another disadvantage of Postman, I could say not disadvantage, limitations of Postman is like there is a monthly limit of how many calls you can use in Postman, this environment. So I think some 1,000 calls per month it will allow in the free Postman. Okay, but again, 1,000 call is, I feel, less when we actually do the actual development and testing, right? So you may need to use it. I mean, use it across multiple teams, and they will be having their own requirements or need, right? So that sometimes you may feel like 1,000 calls per month is less. Yeah, again, you can take a paid version, but that is costly. But you can also use other mocking tools like Wiremock and all, so where there is no limit, and it will give you the similar kind of behavior. But yes, you have to create your mocks own. But here in Postman, there is a option to save response. That's what that is the advantage. But if it is a pure complete new API, then I think you can even switch to Wiremock kind of utilities, which can be very well used by different teams. Just deploy the Wiremock jar file in your server wherever you are deploying your actual APIs, and you can leverage it from your any frame test framework, as well as UI framework you can call. Okay, I'll show both the Wiremock as well as Postman. So let's first try to see how we can actually create a mock. Okay, so this side you can see mock server tab, right? So you can go here and you can create a mock server here directly from here. So you can create a new collection for that, or you can select an existing collection also. Let's create a new collection first, and you can actually mock any of these HTTP methods. Okay, let's do it only for get first, just to see how it looks like. So I will create a new collection, and inside that I'm creating one new mock method. Okay, so test MB. So this is my request URL. Okay, so you can create your request body as well as response body. Now since this is a get, right, so request body I can skip it, and I'll give a response body here. So you can give any parameters, like based on your API specification, you can specify what kind of parameters you are actually looking for in the response. Suppose message, I'm looking for a message from this API, and this will tell me welcome MP from mock server. Okay, this is my response body. Okay, next, yeah, so you have to give a name basically. So this is my dummy mock server name. So you have to give a server name, and you can select your environment, right? Where exactly you want to. So suppose you want to save that URL in your environment variable. Since I already have a test environment variable, I'm giving it. Okay, and we can save the mock server. URL as an environment variable. And there is one another option here, make the mock server private. Now, if you want to keep this mock server private, then you have to send this XAPI key in your header. And what is it is XAPI key? This is like a Postman API key. So when you log into Postman and go to their dashboard, right? So you will get a API key. Basically, Postman will give you an API key. So if you open it, Postman API keys page. You can see here, like, I have created before some API keys. So you can generate a API key here, and that API key you can use if you want to create a private kind of mock server. Now I'm keeping it public now for time being. And if you want to simulate something like, network delay and all, you can simulate, like, it has option like 3Z, 2Z, custom, some delay you want to simulate, you can do it. For time being, I don't want anything. I just want a very basic dummy response. So let's create the mock server. Okay, so if I go to collection, so if you see here, it has already created my get response. Okay, and the URL is actually saved in my environment. Okay, and let's see if I get any response if I send this. So it is telling it is no matching request. Let's see what happens. So test and DMP, I have given a message. Headers not needed, parameters not needed, body also not needed. Let's go to environment. Okay, so we don't need this. Test environment is needed. And in test environment, I think this is a different one. One sec. Go to collection. Yeah, this is not getting down. So I'll go to my collection. Yeah, this is coming. Yeah, so yeah, I'm getting the response now. Okay, so this is very straightforward and simple, right? So you can create your messages and responses. You can well ahead, and then the response will come via the mock server. Okay, now suppose this is where we are creating something from scratch, right? So we are creating our responses from scratch. But Postman also provide you, like, suppose you have the real API available and you want to save a response and then feed it to the mock, right? So that is also possible. So how we can actually do that? I have done that here. For example, this one, right? Last week, I think we have used this Postman echo thing, right? So what exactly we can do here? Postman echo, we can pass any parameters that that API will accept any parameters and it will echo whatever parameters we are actually sending. Suppose I send this, right? So it will give me this particular response. And then once you get the response, right? So there's an option called save response, save as an example. So when you save as an example here, right? And then what we can do, like, we can create a mock, okay, and give this parameters, like what is my query parameters, and then this response we can actually mock it instead of like we creating the entire thing from scratch, right? Taking the response, taking the parameters, it will create from here only, it will take from here. Okay, creating a mock response, saving it, and then you just click on these three dots, right? Then you can go to this mock collection, right? So you can create your uh, mock server basically from here. So this is another way. And I have to just send a request and save the response as an example. Now go here. Copy the URL. I will add a new request. Give get. Yeah. This is for get. Probably you can also try for post. So mostly like post only will be creating. First thing is like you create the request, right? Send it. Okay, and then from here save as an example.
Okay, I did that. Yeah.
You did that, right? So then what you need to do basically, click here and mock collection. Okay, so create a mock server collection. It will take automatically. Tag is current is fine now. Then just select the environment. Okay, create the mock server and it will give you the mock URL. So once you got the mock URL, create a new request basically, put that mock URL. So this is the two ways how we can actually add the mocks. One, like purely we are creating the mock starting from scratch, and if we have the request ready, then we can send the request and save it the response and then add to the mock server. Okay, this is the two options postman is providing us, but always remember like there is a limit on the number of calls you are making to the mock server. This can be copying the response will be applicable if suppose you are mocking a API which belongs to some other team or the third parties, or which is already implemented. So if it is not implemented, obviously you have to create from scratch only. Mostly suppose you are calling a third party APIs like Twitter API or anything which is already there for use, right? So in that case, you call it once. Suppose you got a API key or anything, right? So you call it once, see the actual response, save it. So suppose you call it 4 times, like one like positive scenario and few negative scenarios. Then your 4 or 5 times you will get all the responses. Then from top of that you can create your own test, like
Okay.
more
Yeah.
calls than you don't need to make basically. I have shared a link to this is just a simple jar file. Okay, so Wiremock provides again two options. One is like you can use your responses, create your responses in JSON files, and you can use it, or you can also integrate Wiremock in code. Basically, suppose you have a rest assured kind of environment, then also from the code, or you want to use it in your unit testing from the code, you can very well integrate it. But here I will show you from a testing like from a outside testing how we can actually do it without writing code. This is very simple. First what you have to do, there is a jar file. Okay, so we have this one jar file available, and then I'll show you how we can actually write the responses. Okay. Okay, so you can see here there are folders. Mapping folder is I'm creating here the response. If I go here, so this is a JSON again. You have to follow this particular syntax like mappings, and under mappings you can give multiple responses basically. So each JSON will be a request and response pair. Okay, so I have given here a very simple again example. You can see here request, no method is get. Okay, then you have to specify the URL. What is our URL? Suppose I am giving /users. Okay, then what is the response I am expecting? I am expecting 200, and in the headers maybe content type I am expecting application JSON. So you have to add accordingly. Now again, I think recording option is also there in Wiremock. Like Wiremock also have a recorder. I have not used before, but we can explore that option. But this file I am creating my own. Now there is another option called body file name. Okay, suppose I want to create the response in a different file. That is a good idea, right? So I will be creating different mocks. Then each mock will be having different responses. So you can just give users.json or whatever JSON you are creating that name. But that file has to be part of this particular folder, like underscore files. So this folder structure you have to maintain. And under files, I have created. Okay, this is the response. For example, for that particular users get request, I'm expecting ID, name, and phone number. So I have given that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, this is again an array of JSON. So you can, suppose you have one more request, you can just put it here like this. Okay. So URL maybe you can put books, right? And you can put like books.json. Okay. So I have two now. Now, if books.json has to be there, right? So I have already added users.json. So I'll go to my files, and here I'll create a new JSON file basically. So yeah, here you can add whatever response you are actually thing. This is
Exactly.
actually not query parameters. This is like a see, I have created my response here, right? Now suppose the response body, right? This is the actually response body. So I am
Response body.
specifying the
Okay.
response body in a different file parameter where I'm giving the file name basically. This is
Okay.
not a query parameter. This is like the response body.
Right.
Now in Postman, we are hard coding it, right? Then the response we are writing here. So here also we are writing the response in a different file, basically. Okay. So yeah, I'm just, I started the jar file. Okay. So java-jar and then Wiremock. Then you can call that mock from localhost 8080 users. So it will it will give you the response. So you can even call it from your postman also. This is the way we can do it from Wiremock. So suppose you want to call it from here, like I can add a request quickly. Wiremock and just HTTP localhost 80 users. You can see the response. So actually Wiremock is running, and this is a flexible way. You can run it on your same server where you are actually running your application, right? And you can point your test to this particular mock whenever you need it, basically. And suppose you want different mock servers for different teams also, you can very well distribute it, like and creating also is easy. You can keep your own files and responses. Yeah, this is how Wiremock works, and even using Wiremock, you can mock, like a chain of requests, like like tokens. Even I have used something similar before, like complete authorization as well as the APIs mocking I was able to do. Then callbacks and all we are able to do using Wiremock. So it is very powerful, and we can use it very easily, basically. Okay, so yeah, both are have its own stuff. So you, as per your requirement, postman, like if it is your mocking requirement is limited, I think you can still go ahead with postman. Otherwise you can use Wiremock kind of stuff. Okay, so basically this is a JSON file, and mapping is a JSON array. Okay, so inside mapping, it is a request and response pair, you can say. Okay, first is request. Under request tab, you can add your methods like get, post, put, delete, and you have to give the URL, like your mocked URL, as we have given in the postman. Similar way, you have to give your URL. Now the response is the response this particular request will return. Okay, now response, as we know, response has two things, right? One is your status, then headers, three things basically, and the body, right? So accordingly, as per your request, you can create status, headers, and a body parameter. Now we have a flexibility to define the body in a different file. So here I'm using different files. So I'm giving the response of this users thing in a file called users.json. Similarly, for books, I am giving books.json, right? You can create your own files and you can maintain it. But otherwise, this is you can remember, this is like a mapping is a JSON array where you have request and response pair. And for request also, I have given the minimum things, right? Method and URL. You can add all the things like your query parameters and all you can add. Here in the response, right? I have given a file name. If you see here, users.json. In the Wiremock underscore files folder, right? I have given this JSON file, ID, name, and response.